Hello, my name is John Willard, and this is my needs assessment on adult African American homelessness in District 6 of San Francisco. The purpose was to identify existing programs and resources for the population in question, and to explore the current need for enhancement or creation of existing programs and resources. The issue begins with this fact: half of the population of people experiencing homelessness in San Francisco are in District 6. As we can see here, there is a much higher proportion of Black or African Americans experiencing homelessness in San Francisco. So consider this, that 34% of people experiencing homelessness are Black, but only make up 6% of the total population by race in the city. The needs assessment plan included identifying and holding interviews, conducting a qualitative analysis from which I culled key findings, organized the results, and made recommendations accordingly. Finally, I took the time to reflect on all of these results. The interviewees I intended to meet with in District 6 included members from the Board of Supervisors, a workforce initiative, a community organizing group, and the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. Unfortunately, I was unable to make contact with the Board of Supervisors in time, so the three remaining here were my interviewees. The questions ranged from learning a little bit more about the interviewees themselves, their services. We had discussions around statistics, and finding out a little bit more programmatic information from each one of them, as well as observations on gentrification. First interview was with Kendra. She's the Director of Support Services at the Camelot Hotel. This is a single-room occupancy building offering permanent supportive housing to individuals who had experienced homelessness. She pointed out that 60% of her residents are African American. Keeping that in mind with the earlier population statistic of 6% is significant. I also met with James, the director of CORE, a community organizing group in San Francisco. He's the co-founder of the Eviction Defense Network and a board member of the San Francisco Community Land Trust and Jobs with Justice program. He's also an author of several books focused on political and social change in the Bay Area. Lastly, I met with Felicia, a longtime resident of District 6. She is African American and not only graduated from Solutions SF program, but is currently a manager for that same program. Solutions is a workforce enterprise that offers training, support, and job attainment for residents of District 6 that were previously experiencing homelessness. Some key findings include a deeper understanding from a historical perspective of how displacement occurred in San Francisco. It began with the urban removal, which in the 1960s the government financed and facilitated destruction of inner-city housing. Housing was not rebuilt as promised, and only half of the residents got access back to their housing in that original neighborhood. Many had to move to what are now called the rim cities like Vallejo and San Rafael. The Hope 6 program began in the 80s under the direction of the HUD, and it intended to move the feds out of the housing and back into the hands of the community organizations. However, the feds opened the program to public and private investors, which resulted in a land grab by wealthier non-black owners. During the Clinton era, changes to Hope 6 included mixing economic levels within buildings, resulting in less housing for lowest economic classes. Additionally, the Google bus protests in 2014 illustrate the anger of seemingly unfair eviction practices by landlords. Protesters staged several blockades of the free buses that ferry tech employees from San Francisco to the corporate campuses of Google, Apple, Yahoo, and other technology firms every weekday. These buses have come to symbolize the relentless displacement in the city. Some other key findings were around employment opportunities that exist for residents in District 6. And they do exist, but there is much income inequity. What we find is three siloed division of jobs: tech jobs, service jobs that service the tech employees, and finally social workers attempting to change the current situation in the district. This reflects what extant literature refers to as the urban growth machine thesis. This states that coalitions of urban elites seek to capture and retain economic power by promoting real estate and population growth. This has come in the form of what is known as the tech boom. Now, putting aside the problematic class-like divisions that lie in the job market, we see that there exist initiatives such as Targeted Hire. It's an effort to hire only residents of San Francisco to curb or reverse some of the outflow of the people from the city. A noteworthy occurrence here is the steadily increasing hospitality industry in District 6, which is leading to many jobs. Now, whereas the workforce developments and hospitality jobs are a step in the right direction, it is collaterally causing a chasm between income levels due to a lack of sustainable middle-class jobs. And I was unable to find very many programs that were ran by and for African Americans in San Francisco. Now some recommendations would be around, based on the key findings, would be around coordination. The first being the need for better coordination of services. It seems right now that San Francisco is slow to adopt coordination entry as a concept for services. In fact, I'm participating on a committee currently that is just now hammering out the details for what coordinated entry will look like for certain populations. A new system referred to as the One System was recently adopted by the city and local agencies to consolidate information, to allow for better navigation for recipients to get from homeless to housed. Further recommendations include the concept of targeting populations. Currently, this is a topic of discussion for the committee, the idea being that since African Americans have been systematically removed from San Francisco, it stands to reason to try to target that populations in terms of outreach and offering streamlined, culturally competent services. It's my recommendation that community organizers and advocates look for legal inroads to create easier solutions for African Americans to access housing. Another recommendation would be for additional support from local and regional government towards African American business ownership to take root in District 6. This is based in literature findings around the social capital model of neighborhood change. The model integrates the concept of social capital into an explanatory framework of neighborhood change over time. The social capital hypothesis suggests that social, economic, and demographic forces of change do not have the same effect on every neighborhood. Their impacts depend on the strength of social capital in the area, which has positive and significant effects on neighborhood stability. I recommend for a deeper needs assessment in this specific area to help promote and sustain African American run businesses in District 6. This can be done in a collaboration with the San Francisco African American Chamber of Commerce, who is currently undertaking such efforts. What we have seen is a string of programs and initiatives not fully rooted in capacity-centered modality. I recommend for more support and increasing knowledge around the concept of capacity-centered development and identity activism, using what Rothman referred to as community cohesion, capabilities, and competence. Innovative strategies can be adopted. As for one example found within the research, the Umoja Village shantytown in Miami in 2006 can be used for perspective. In short, this was a public protest against gentrification, which inspired activists and observers around the country, shifting the conversation, repoliticizing the act of squatting, and helping to catalyze a new movement against gentrification and housing issues. As part of my shareback, I am currently participating in the aforementioned committee. I'm sharing back what I've learned here in an effort to maintain some cultural competence around issues affecting African American homelessness in District 6. I will also look for other organizations to participate in to use this newfound knowledge. One such group I have identified is called the Black Democratic Group of San Francisco. Lastly, I will attempt to share this presentation back with agencies interviewed to offer a deeper perspective on the issue. My reflection, I feel that this needs assessment has helped me gain some cultural competence, which is very valuable as a white social worker in District 6. This is a complex, systemic and political issue that has a long history, and the field of study was deeper and broader than I anticipated. I struggled to narrow down my research and identified the most relevant findings. In retrospect, I wish I would have had a more dialogical approach with my cohorts around the time of my progress report in order to gain perspective. Lastly, I wish I would have done a better job of including more direct community African American input, maybe reaching out to persons who have moved to the Rim cities or are facing displacement now. Thank you very much.